Hi, welcome to another edition of Fleet Momentum video series produced by Automotive Fleet Magazine. I'm Bobit's associate publisher, Chris Brown. This series is designed to put a spotlight on key leaders, trends, and product offerings in the fleet management industry. This episode is sponsored by and produced in partnership with Holman. Today we'll be talking to Gibran Lehmkuhl, who runs the fleet at Schindler Elevator, and Ted Davis, Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Holman Manufacturing and Distribution. Gibran and I will discuss his fleet's electrification plans. And then Ted and I will talk about how Holman helps fleet clients to electrify commercial vehicles, particularly as it relates to upfitting. Well, let's start with introductions. Gibran, why don't you introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Sure thing, Chris. So Gibran Lehmkuhl, Head of Indirect Purchasing and Mobility for Schindler in US, managing this large fleet of almost 4,000 vehicles. Happy to be part of this session today.
Great, thanks. Go ahead, Ted.
Hey, Chris. Ted Davis, Senior Vice President of Supply Chain for Holman, as well as Chief Operating Officer of Holman's Manufacturing Division. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Great. Gibran, let's start with you. Tell us about Schindler Elevator, and then tell us about your electrification goals and plans, and where are you in this transition?
Sure thing, Chris. So Schindler is a Swiss company. We are celebrating 150 years next year, so big year for us. And as we are celebrating this long history with the elevator and vertical transportation industry, we are very committed to our world, to our planet. And as part of that, last year, we formally announced our commitment to become net zero by 2040. And as you can imagine, this is a pretty big commitment for a company our size. We have 6,000 employees in US only. We have almost 4,000 vehicles on the fleet. And of course, once you commit to that, you need to deliver. And that's what we are working a lot right now, is to make sure that we are ready to deliver by that deadline. And there's different initiatives going on, right sizing the fleet, using some devices that will help us reducing our CO2. But obviously, electrification is a big component of that. So we are very committed to that. We closed 2022 with roughly 100 EVs on fleet. This year we're probably going to close around 240, so more than double the last year, which shows our commitment. We are pioneers in the elevator industry in terms of electrification. We are part of CEVA, which is a corporate electric vehicle alliance. So we also talking to other big partners and big companies in different business and exchanging experience and learning together. So all together, again, this is a trend that's not going to stop. I think that's the message. We are just starting. And there's a lot to happen still on this EV environment, and we're going after it. We want to be leaders on that.
Wow, great. Well, congratulations on that transition and really more than doubling your EV fleet. That's really exciting. So when you look at your thought process on your needs, your fleet's needs versus the capabilities of what the EVs in the marketplace offer right now, how do you see that?
Yeah, for us, Chris, is first is always about safety, making sure that our employees, our mechanics in the field, they are driving a safe vehicle. That's basic, right? And once we are beyond that point, now we are talking about the efficiency of the vehicle. And we have mechanics and employees working in different business lines, repair, modernization, new installations. And in each business line, there's different demands, right? We go from very small vans to very large vans. And we need to deliver those vehicles, and we need to evolve as the market evolves. I think the biggest example of the situations we find ourselves is right now, the small and medium-sized van market kind of had a pretty big change with Mercedes Matrix going out of the market, Ram ProMaster City going out of the market, Ford Transit Connect also being discontinued. And you need to find a way to get through the situation, keep your business running. And that's what they're trying to do, really. And I think it's a little bit of the perfect storm when you have a situation like that, and suddenly there is a company like Canoo that shows up with a very unique vehicle, a head-turning vehicle for sure in terms of design, but very dedicated to the cause. And they came to us, they listened to our needs, they dissected one of our vehicles, trying to understand our needs on the vehicle, and honestly, the offer is pretty compatible to check a lot of our boxes in terms of what we need for this kind of segment. So we're very excited about this partnership with them. We should be getting our first 50 vehicles before end of the year, and we are very excited about how that's going to go. But definitely a very interesting moment for Schindler on the EV journey we are going through.
Yeah, that really is exciting. Those first 50 units. Yeah, that's great. So let's just talk about the FMC partnership, equally as important, right, in the electrification transition. How is Holman specifically helping to shape your upfit strategy as it relates to EVs?
Yeah, it's easy to talk about Holman. They are a long-standing partner for Schindler, our fleet management company for a while, and they know us. I think that's the very first point. It's important to highlight. They know Schindler, they know our vehicles, they know what we need, they know the pain points our drivers have, and that kind of understanding, both from the business side, both from the technical standpoint, are really crucial to make sure that we are going to have the right product in the road. In this transition, right? And having the right upfit in the vehicle, challenging the status quo in terms of the upfit we have. Is this really what you need? Are you getting the best bang for the buck on that kind of application? And that relationship we have is very open, to the point that they can come and really suggest and challenge us and share expertise and share experiences. And we learn with each other. It's a real partnership, and again, it's not going to be any different during this EV go live.
Okay, Ted, let's flip it to you. How is Holman helping fleet clients fit these new EV models into their present duty cycles?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. And I think Gibran brought up a great point, right? It starts with partnership and transparency, but it starts with data, right? So, unlike year-over-year data that we would typically use to look at duty cycle analysis, on an ICE side, we don't have year-over-year comparisons with EVs because it's a new journey. So what we can do is we can take a look at a larger set of data from a client operating standpoint to start to make some needed assumptions about where EVs fit into the fleet. We consider a ton of information, but a couple of key things that we look at is really, what is the operating range that the vehicle needs to operate in a standard duty cycle? What is the payload it needs to carry? What are the conditions it's going to operate in? So think about geography, weather, topography, and then ultimately, how is it going to live at night? So is it going to domicile at a base location where it can come back and charge on a regular basis? Or is it going to go home with the driver? And what sort of solutions do we need to provide for repetitive charging, either at the home or, as they like to call, in the wild with EV charging, right? Somewhere out amidst the roads. So we take all that information, and from that information, we can really start to make recommendations about the appropriate insertion points of where EV vehicles make sense when you compare it to the needs of the fleet and ultimately the need of the operator to do their job.
When we talk about upfitting an EV, particularly, obviously a commercial EV, this is a little bit different than your typical ICE unit. What are some of those special considerations that fleets need to manage?
Yeah, I think it really starts with understanding what the operator's needs are from the vehicle, right? And how, when you're working with a new EV product, can you provide the needed functionality for them without reducing the effectiveness of the EV, right? So you talk about this carbon neutral requirement, the effectiveness of electrification. If you suck out all the life of the EV to run ancillary tools or products, you kind of take away from its value. So we look at a couple things. The first is weight management of the upfit, right? So EV batteries themselves take up a significant amount of available overall GVW. So with new EV upfits, there's a greater lens on component weight and component structure, and this helps with range, but also ensures compliance around federal regulations, state regulations with weight. In addition to weight, we also look at fuel-powered accessories. So with ICE vehicles, we can tap into the ICE engine, into the fuel tank to run things like generators and compressors, even inverters. So now we have to take a completely different look at that. And how do we power those bolt-on accessories? We could tap into the EV itself based on the needs of the range, but oftentimes what we're doing is we're making alternative recommendations for supplemental power sources that we can add to the vehicle that support those accessory components and don't take away from things like range. And then I think lastly, it's really about as simple as where to drill, where not to drill, And how do new mounting options play into getting EV upfit in the vehicle without damaging the critical components?
Yeah, really good point. And Ted, I'm going to stay with you for this last question here. It's kind of more of a broader question on, these shape and size of these new EVs. They continue to evolve. And, you look at this Canoo EV van in particular. How is Holman helping customers really adjust to these new models? And I mean, how do you adjust Holman's product offerings in this new world of EVs?
Yeah, I think we're uniquely positioned with that Chris, because Holman's not just a fleet management company, but within our portfolio, where we have fleet management services, we also do upfit, and then we also own upstream manufacturing. So we have a large staff of engineers within our business, right? And having them on our team gives us the opportunity to collaborate with OEMs on a regular basis. It also gives us insight early to new products that are being developed, like Canoo, or just different things like 3D modeling, wiring diagrams, overall vehicle documents from a design perspective. And when we have that ability to get early visibility, we can then start to modify our current components or develop new futuristic components that fit into unique spaces like the Canoo vehicle itself. And I would end with one thing that Gibran opened up with, and that is really, this is a tri-party partnership, right? It's all new for all of us. So when you have a great partner like Schindler, you have a good relationship with the OEMs, and then you have Holman. When the three of us put our heads together, we can really take what started out as new ideas and turn them into a functional reality that can go out to work and complete a job, right? So I just thought it was important to end with, this is all based on a partnership.
Sure, really good points. Well, okay, let's end with that. Gibran, Ted, thanks for joining us on this edition of Fleet Momentum video series.
Thank you, Chris. It
Yes,
was a
thank you,
pleasure.
Gibran.